The parashah for this Shabbat is Metzorah. Let this be the teaching about a leper, that is someone stricken and cast out of society. The Haftarah is from the second book of Kings. It is a narrative about outcasts and the siege of Samaria. King Ben-Hadad of Aram mustered his entire army and marched upon Samaria and besieged it. There was a great famine in Samaria, and the siege continued until a donkey's head sold for 80 shekels of silver and a quarter of a cob of dove's dung for 5 shekels. At the city gate there were 4 leprous men, outcasts. Ba'arba'im anashim hayu Metzorahim. There is little food left in the city. We won't get any. Let's go to the enemy camp. We can't be any worse off. Either we die here or we die there. At twilight, Neshef, they went toward the camp of the Arameans. Neshef comes from the verb meaning to blow. It is the time of the evening breeze, cool and mysterious. We see here the Metzorahim leaving the city of Samaria and going to the enemy camp. But when they came to the edge of the Aramean camp, there was no one there. For the Lord had caused the Aramean camp to hear a sound of chariots and the sound of horses. The din of a huge army. They said to one another, "The king of Israel must have hired the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Mitzrayim to attack us." And they fled headlong into the twilight, abandoning their tents and their horses and their asses, the entire camp just as it was, as they fled for their lives. The Arameans were spooked. When those lepers came to the edge of the camp, they went into one of the tents and ate and drank, and they carried off silver and gold and clothing from there and buried it. And they came back and went into another tent, and they carried off what was there and buried it. They came, they went, they ate, they drank, they carried off, they buried, they came back, they went, they carried off, they buried. Then they said to one another, "We are not doing right. This is a day of good news, and we are keeping it silent. If we wait until the light of the morning, we shall incur guilt. Come, let's go and inform the king's palace." So the outcasts went and told the gatekeepers of Samaria, and the gatekeepers told the king, who was skeptical, but the outcasts were absolutely right. And so, outcasts, the lowest level of society, were the ones that let the king know that the siege was over. Although there is no indication in this Haftarah, I'd like to think that the Metzorahim came back to the Aramean camp and dug up the riches that they had buried and became very wealthy men. As wealthy men, they became highly respected citizens. And so you never know. Outcasts today and upper-class citizens tomorrow, but basically the same persons. It can happen. Thank you for your interest, and Shabbat Shalom.